Hi, welcome to my AP Macroeconomics last minute video. I am a high school student who has got a 5 in AP Macro exam. And I'm currently making more videos to cover major topics of the AP Macro curriculum. Today, I'll talk about fiscal policy. Economically, the government has two goals: low inflation and full employment. But only one can be achieved at one time. We can't have both at the same time. It's just impossible. The Philip curve shows the inverse relationship between inflation and unemployment. If inflation goes down, unemployment goes up. The short-run Phillips curve shows the inverse relationship between inflation and unemployment. While long-run Phillips curve is a vertical line, there's no relationship between inflation and unemployment, because in the long run, inflation and price level does not matter. So, the government has two types of fiscal policy: expansionary fiscal policy and contractionary fiscal policy. By increasing government expenditure and or lowering taxes, expansionary fiscal policies increase GDP, lowers unemployment, and closes the recessionary gap. Contractionary fiscal policy does the opposite. By lowering government spending and or increasing taxes, contractionary fiscal policies decrease GDP, reduces inflation, and closes an inflationary gap. Multiplier effect talks about the multiplication, so-called multiplication of money. One person spends $100, the store gets the dollars, the owner saves some of them and spends the rest on other places. A portion of the money is spent, and the other portion is saved by a third person. And it goes on and goes on and goes on. The money is passed on dozens of people. If the government spends more money, the money will be spent by multiple people, and it gets passed on to dozens of people in the economy. This follows the multiplier effect. To find out how much the money is so-called multiplied, we need the marginal propensity to consume, MPC. That is, given an extra dollar to a person, how much has it been spent by that person? So we have to use one of the following multipliers: government spending multiplier or tax multiplier. It depends on what kind of fiscal policy you're using. So the government spending multiplier equals to 1 over 1 minus MPC, while the tax multiplier equals to MPC over 1 minus MPC. Now, the total change in GDP caused by the change in spending equals to the multiplier issues times the initial change in spending. We expect the total change in GDP for an increase of government spending will be positive, while the total change in GDP for an increase of tax will be negative. Fiscal policy sounds wonderful, but it has its own problems. National debt can be accumulated over time, and the government has to repay it somewhere in the future. Also, if the government spends in deflate, it has to borrow a lot of money from the market to finance the deflate. This increases interest rates in the market and crowds out investors and consumers, meaning investors and consumers cannot borrow as much money from the bank as they could. Thus, people have less money to spend, and it negatively impacts the aggregate demand. This is called the crowding out effect. That's just the end of today's video, and I'll cover money in the next video. Thank you very much.